and I can remember losing this one time in the sit room where I was just getting frustrated about a discussion. And again, no disrespect to the team. This is during the Obama administration, and we were having a discussion, National Security Advisor, the President, the national security leaders, and we were having a discussion about what was the appropriate response to much of this cyber activity that we were seeing that nation states and criminal groups are directing against U.S. infrastructure, U.S. companies, targets within the government. And the conversation I kept hearing was, we don't want to respond. This would be escalatory. And I got a little frustrated over time, and I said, could you guys help me understand why is it that we are sending the signal to the Russians, the Chinese, the Iranians, and the North Koreans that this is almost acceptable behavior on their part, and we're not going to respond, and at least respond in a meaningful, effective way that's going to change their calculus.
And in a way that's almost visible in public, because I would argue there's been some saber rattling that happens in the clandestine world, but at the end of the day, you also want to induce changes in other people's behavior, right? If you don't respond to X, North Korea is going to respond and say, hey, that's fair game,
because part of the concept of deterrence is, if you're going to deter an entity, they have to have some level of awareness of both capability and intent.
Yeah, exactly.
You want them to understand you have both capability and you have intent. And just the one, well, communicating that you have intent. On the other hand, they might say, sure, right, we've heard this before. You know, what do you really got?
You also have a big issue now with proxies. And it gets difficult to discern sometimes who's the puppet, who's the master. And in China's case, maybe there's some moonlighting going on for non-government activity.
Because you saw that with Volt Typhoon, which is Chinese penetration, emplacement of destructive malware within segments of the U.S. electrical grid, where it was government...
And water and transportation.
Government-developed malware that was provided to a non-government entity in China, and they were given a target and the malware to upload.
Since you brought up Volt Typhoon, to me, that seems like a line was crossed in the sand.
Yeah, now I would be the first of it. If you had asked me 5 years ago when I left Cyber Command, would a foreign entity, in this case a nation state, upload destructive malware into critical U.S. infrastructure in a time of peace or short of conflict? I would have said to you, highly escalatory. Boy, I would think there's a low probability. Boy, I got that wrong. I mean, clearly we're seeing the PRC's risk calculus is very different.